this tutorial we're going to have a look at some of the key input and output molecules, or input required molecules and waste molecules or waste matter in autotrophs and heterotrophs. So we're going to do a generic comparison between plants and animals. So not all of these will apply to every plant, not all of these will apply to every animal obviously, but these are two kind of, this is just going to be a generic comparison between the two. So inputs are things that plants or animals need to take into themselves as an organism, and wastes are things that they're going to output, so things that they need to get rid of out of themselves as an organism. They don't need them or want them inside of their body. So let's look at plants first. Some of the main inputs or requirements, things required by plants, include gases such as carbon dioxide and oxygen, which is going to be required for photosynthesis and aerobic respiration respectively. They also require a number of different ions. So these ions can include things like phosphate ions for ATP synthesis, as well as things like calcium and magnesium, and even Fe, which is iron ions. So a number of different ions are needed for plants to be able to survive and do perform a number of different processes inside of themselves as an organism. There's some nutrients that they need in order to help growth and repair, such as nitrates, and also sulfates. These are going to help a lot with things like protein synthesis and amino acid synthesis, which are going to add to their structural growth, amongst other things. And finally, they are going to need glucose as an input, which I guess is kind of an input, but they need to create it themselves. They need to go through the process of creating glucose themselves through photosynthesis. Let's look at some wastes now for plants. So the main wastes are going to include excess oxygen, which is going to come about through photosynthesis. Also excess carbon dioxide, which is going to come about through, will be created through aerobic respiration, and also excess H2O, or water. It's going to come about through the process of aerobic respiration as well. So if they have too much oxygen, carbon dioxide, or water to use again in photosynthesis or aerobic respiration, if required, they need to get those out of their body, or out of their organism. Animals main, I might change colours just to differentiate. Animals main inputs, so their requirements, the things that they need. We're going to see some similarities and some differences to plants. They need gases such as oxygen in order to carry out aerobic respiration. Also ions, so ions such as sodium, phosphate ions, calcium ions, chloride ions. So a number of these are required for or in messaging, like nerve messaging and things like that. So ions used to transport messages. So they're required inside of the body for this to be able to occur. We also see the requirement for different types of vitamins. In most or many animals, we need glucose to be ingested in order for aerobic respiration to take place, and we need to ingest food that contains amino acids so we can go about building some proteins. And finally, in animals, some wastes which we see include carbon dioxide, waste product from aerobic respiration. So we are going to breathe that out. Animals are most likely to breathe that out. Lactic acid, which is produced through anaerobic respiration or fermentation. Urea. So urea is mainly excess amino acids, or like old broken down amino acids, which are broken down and then urinated out of the body, or a little bit can be sweated out of the body if we have an animal that sweats. And finally, within sweat itself, we get some waste products such as sodium and chloride ions, which aren't required. So sweat can remove some of those from the body if it's an animal that sweat. Not all animals have the capacity to sweat, but a human, for example, we can get rid of sodium and chloride ions that we don't need through sweating. So there's some of the key inputs and wastes, or input and output matter in plants and animals, so things that they require in order to function, and things that they don't require, waste that need to be removed from their organisms in order for them to continue to be happy and function.